All right, let's jump right in. Some historical events are just so massive, they completely transcend simple dates on a calendar or lines drawn on a battlefield. They represent these absolute seismic cultural shifts. Today, we're exploring the deep, multi-layered questions surrounding the Battle of Karbala in this explainer. We're going to visually map out this epic historical inquiry. It's like a giant puzzle, and we'll be organizing the complex chain of events, the vast geography, and the underlying motivations, looking strictly at the facts to understand one of the most significant clashes in human history. So here is our roadmap for today. We'll be covering 1. What is the Battle of Karbala? 2. Who was Maula Hussain? 3. The journey from Mecca to Sham. 4. The root causes. And finally, 5. The battlefield events. Okay, let's start with section 1. What is the Battle of Karbala? So what exactly are we looking at here, and why did it even happen in the first place? To really understand the gravity of Karbala, we can't just look at it as some isolated military skirmish. It's way bigger than that. It demands a full, detailed breakdown of massive historical currents. But honestly, before we can even begin to understand the clash itself, we have to understand the actual people involved. Which brings us nicely to section 2. Who was Maula Hussain? Listen, you absolutely cannot grasp the what and the why of Karbala without first establishing his identity. Maula Hussain's position, his lineage, and his core principles are the absolute key to understanding why things unfolded the way they did. He is literally the anchor of this entire historical narrative, and keeping his perspective in mind is absolutely crucial as we start to map out the sheer physical scale of the events that followed. Let's move on to section 3, the journey from Mecca to Sham. We are tracing a truly monumental path here. Step 1 kicks off in Mecca. Step 2 takes us to Medina. Step 3 brings us to the focal point, which is Karbala. And Step 4 looks towards Sham, over in the greater region of Iraq. Now keep in mind, this wasn't just some simple trip, right? This was a massive, grueling migration of a leader, his family, and his companions across some seriously harsh terrain. It's quite literally a geographical timeline of rising, intense tension. But looking at this immense route, you've got to ask yourself, why? I mean, what actually compels a central historical figure to leave the relative security of Mecca and Medina for the plains of Karbala? Well, geography here is driven by politics, pressure, and principle. This movement wasn't random. It was a direct response to a rapidly deteriorating political climate. That leads us into section 4, the root causes of the war. To truly learn this history, we have to ask the hard questions about causation. Why exactly was this war fought? Because of whom did it happen? And what were the foundational reasons for the clash in the first place? You see, this conflict was the result of deep societal fractures, totally differing ideologies, and competing claims to authority. We literally have to weigh the broader factors, the societal shifts and those broken agreements, against the specific individuals and factions whose direct actions triggered the war. Kiski wajah se thi? Because of whom did this happen? Answering this requires looking at the historical records from multiple perspectives impartially, understanding the motivations of the opposing armies, and really analyzing the political calculus of the era without taking sides. All right, let's dive into our final area, section 5, conditions at the battlefield of Karbala. And this brings us right to the Medina Karbala, the battlefield itself. This is where the geographical journey abruptly stops and the physical conflict really begins. So what were the conditions actually like on the ground? We need to unpack this history from start to finish. We are talking about a severe, almost unbelievable imbalance of power, incredibly harsh environmental conditions, and an escalating siege. What exactly happened to them out there? The historical records point to some incredibly intense hardship, like the outright denial of basic resources, including water, and a series of sequential, totally devastating encounters. It's essentially a detailed breakdown of endurance. We're looking at a small, tight-knit group of companions facing an overwhelming force. Understanding the specifics of this sacrifice is so important because these exact details have literally shaped cultures and philosophies for centuries. To really wrap our heads around this tragedy, we've got to synthesize the complete chronological and causal chain. You can't just know the ending, right? You have to trace the narrative seamlessly. Why did each specific action happen? How did the early morning of the battle progress into the afternoon? By analyzing these events from start to finish, we transform what looks like a chaotic battle into a clear, understandable timeline of cause and effect. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to reflect on the sheer magnitude of these events. We've mapped the central figures, the vast geography, the root causes, and the battlefield itself. But the most important question for us today is, what is the lasting legacy? Why do these specific details and this profound sacrifice still command the attention of the world today? By exploring these questions, you don't just learn about the past, you uncover the very foundations of the present. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep visual dive, and definitely keep exploring the incredible layers of our shared history.